Hi, my name is Dr. John Heslov from ORM Fertility, and I'd like to thank you for coming to our breakout session this afternoon. First, I'd like to introduce myself and the co-presenter today, Craig Reiser. I'm a graduate of Harvard University, where I received my bachelor's degree in biochemistry, and then I completed my medical education at Oregon Health and Science University in Portland, in the city where I currently live. I completed my medical training at UCLA, where I was a resident in obstetrics and gynecology, and I then underwent a 3-year fellowship program at Johns Hopkins University, which in the United States has been ranked as one of the top medical centers for medical research. After I completed my training, I worked in academic medicine for approximately 10 years. I was the director of the IVF program at Johns Hopkins, where actually I started the egg donation program in 1990. And I was the director of the IVF program at Emory University in Atlanta. But since 1999, I've been the medical director of ORM Fertility, and our program has grown considerably during the past 20 years. Now I'd like to introduce you to Craig.
Very quick. So I'm Craig Reiser. I look after our new patients from Europe. I'm a dad through surrogacy. I was sat in your chairs at one point. I've got 2 young boys, thanks to the program at ORM, my son 5.5 and 4. We had a 3-year journey that took us for 2 successive surrogacies with first-time success both times. And I do a lot of writing and education on this topic, so we'll be happy to speak to all of you to help understand the puzzle that this process can be.
This year we're celebrating our 30th year of founding of ORM Fertility. We're one of the largest IVF programs in the West Coast and actually in the United States. We're currently completing about 1,600 IVF treatments every year, and many of these are with egg donation and surrogacy. We're one of the top 4 clinics in the United States in terms of the number of donor egg and surrogacy treatment cycles that we complete. One of the things that makes us unique is that we have our own in-house egg donor program, and we have our own in-house genomics team, which consists of genetic counselors who are present to evaluate your reproductive risks of having a child with a genetic disorder, and the genetic counselor can help you find the right egg donor for your medical background. We have offices in Portland and Seattle. We just opened our office in Seattle earlier this year. We're excited about this new opening because the laws in the state of Washington changed in the past year, where now surrogacy is legal in the state of Washington. So many of the surrogates we're treating now live close to our clinic, either in Portland or in Seattle. We also have offices in Shanghai and in Tel Aviv because we have patients that come to us from very far reaches of the world. Our clinic has 6 board-certified fertility specialists, 7 embryologists, a 5-person in-house genomics team, who again is present to counsel you regarding the options for screening and for treating. We also have 25 staff members who are specifically assigned to helping our intended parents from Europe and from other countries. All told, we have about 140 to 150 staff who are focused on helping create families. And again, one of the big emphasis in our program has been helping the LGBT community, not only in the United States, but in many different countries around the world.
You know, ORM has got a culture and a set of values that really drives everything about the organization. The mission that we really want you to understand that goes through everything in the clinic is to really give you, as intended parents, the best possible chance of first-time success and a healthy baby. And that really translates in practical terms into the fastest possible journey, the lowest possible costs, and the lowest possible stress. And helping gay dads become parents is a core part of the clinic. Patients, intended dads come from around 30 countries, and this was the Pride celebration a year ago in Portland. And if you look at the center picture at the bottom, you'll see the illustrious Dr. Hessa in his Pride kit for the fair.
We have a very experienced team of coordinators who works with our intended parents. And again, I mentioned earlier, there are about 25 staff members. So those of you who work with our clinic will be working with a single coordinator as well as a single physician in our group. We coordinate with the treatments with many different surrogacy agencies throughout the United States as well as in Canada. We have strong relationships with many of these agencies, and we do encourage you to find the surrogacy agency that's the right one for you. We can give you suggestions, but we'd recommend that you interview several agencies. Many of the men that we help will find a surrogate who lives relatively close to our clinic, either in the state of Oregon or the state of Washington. The Pacific Northwest is an excellent resource for your surrogate because women who live in the Northwest are generally very healthy. In fact, there have been studies that have shown that women who deliver in the state of Oregon have the lowest rate of preterm labor of all 50 states in the United States. Also, surrogacy is very easy to coordinate legally in Oregon and Washington due to our policies and laws. And it can be less expensive if your surrogate lives relatively close to the clinic because you might be paying less travel costs if the surrogate can drive to the clinic rather than fly to the clinic. But we certainly work with surrogates from throughout the United States and in Canada. And surrogates who come from farther away will probably need to spend 3 or 4 nights in Portland around the time of their embryo transfer. But all of their monitoring, the ultrasound studies and blood tests that are necessary before their embryo transfer and then once they're pregnant can be performed in their home city. So it is certainly very possible to treat surrogates effectively who live in farther distances. For example, Craig's surrogate lived in the state of Maine, which is on the east coast of the United States, and she flew to our clinic in Portland for her 2 embryo transfers. We encourage you to pick a surrogate who is healthy, but we also encourage you to pick the right clinic to work with you because it certainly can be advantageous for the surrogate to get pregnant with the very first treatment. It's less stressful for you and potentially less cost as well. Our clinic has its own in-house egg donor program. We have approximately 150 egg donors that we treat every year. The egg donors undergo a very careful screening process, and only about 7% of the women who initially apply to be donors are actually accepted and go through the treatment. Our clinical coordinators in our program know the egg donors very well, and if you have any specific questions about their background, information that may not be that you may not see on the donor profile, you can certainly ask us questions and we can get additional information for you. Many of our donors, probably most of them, are willing to have some degree of contact with the recipient parents. So that can be of advantage to you. I would say most Europeans that we help do want to meet their donor or at least have some degree of contact with the donor. Any donor that's selected through our clinic may be associated with lower costs because we don't have any agency fee for our egg donors, and a lot of the donors are relatively close to our clinics in Portland and in Seattle. One other part of the process in finding a donor through our clinic is all of the donors have been interviewed carefully by one of our 4 genetic counselors, and the genetic counselors will complete a questionnaire and complete a report that will tell you information, detailed information about the family's medical history. And that's yours to keep so that you can share it with your future pediatrician and your future child. Some of our patients, some of our intended parents will pick an egg donor through an outside agency. And that may be especially important for those of you who are looking for people who have very rare characteristics, such as if you were looking for an egg donor who is from Japan. They're actually very hard to come by. You might need to find one through an agency. We welcome any outside agency donors, and we encourage you to pick the clinic that offers you a high pregnancy rate with the donor, no matter where the donor lives. So in the past year, we've treated egg donors who live in Florida, in California, in New York, as well as egg donors actually who live in Europe, who are friends of the intended parents. I treated actually an egg donor recently who lives in Belgium, who came to donate for 2 of her friends. But you'll get very detailed information about the donors, and that will help you find the right donor for you. I mentioned that we have a strong genetics component to our program. We have 4 board-certified genetic counselors who work at our clinic. I'm not sure if any of the other clinics that are at the meeting today have a genetic counselor who actually works full-time at their clinic. And our program is also directed by our lab director, Dr. Allison Coates, who has her PhD in genetics. Most of the patients that we help choose to have their embryos biopsied for genetic testing. And this is just a photograph of a series of pictures that show how an embryo is biopsied. We wait until the embryo reaches more than 80 cells in number before we biopsy the embryo. And the cells that we remove for genetic testing are the cells that would be designated for future placental cells. So we're not harming the cells that will form the baby. We remove approximately 5 to 6 cells from the embryo, and then the genetics lab will analyze the DNA by making multiple copies of the chromosomes, and then they'll apply hundreds of thousands of genetic probes to each chromosome to look to see if there's any addition or deletion of part of a chromosome or an entire chromosome. In early embryo development, many of the embryos are genetically abnormal. Studies have shown that approximately 60% of embryos that are biopsied from donor egg cycles are normal, and approximately 40% are abnormal. So having this additional information regarding the genetics of the embryo can help us find the right embryo. Not all of the clinics that in this program biopsy embryos to the extent that we do. Moving on, this is information regarding our live birth rates for treatment. So when we transfer one embryo, in 2017 the live birth rate was 69%. With 2 embryo transfers, the live birth rate is higher, it was 91%, but about 2/3 of the women deliver twins. So we only recommend transferring 1 embryo if you're hoping for 1 child. And as you can see from this table, which you have handouts on, our live birth rate is significantly higher than the national average.
We wanted to say just a quick word about our pricing so that you understand. So you'll get pricing from many clinics. We have 1 single program for this type of cycle. It's designed to be very transparent, fully inclusive, and to include all of the financial guarantees in 1 package. Some of you may ask, you will have noticed that as a clinic, we don't offer a GPAP stage 1 discount. We did that on purpose because we actually recently improved our pricing, and the idea being we included more of a financial guarantee for everyone. So that in our pricing, you may look at clinics and they'll have a base pricing and then a more expensive pricing for the guarantee. We restructured ours to include the guarantee for everyone, so everyone gets that insurance and don't have to pay anything more for it. We can give you all the details of it, but we think it's quite competitive, and we know that our pricing ends up being even less costly, even with a discount compared to some of our peers. And the last point we wanted to make, you're all going to travel somewhere, right, for your treatment. So this is a map of the locations of all of the clinics that are here. So your choice is going to be, where do you want to go, and where do you want your egg donor and your surrogate? In this process, your visit to the US is going to be very short, and you should be choosing your clinic, whatever that is, wherever you think it's going to give you that best chance of success. And at ORM, you can either come to Portland or Seattle to do your single part of the process. We have a guide, a 20-page guide, which you can download from our website, from the website, or by scanning this, and this has got a lot of information on the process. We're here, so please feel free to contact us. For those of you that we managed to get a clipboard to, if you could give us those back. If you didn't get one and you want a printed copy of the presentation, please just stop by the table, or we're happy to email them to you. Thank you.